So here's a question students are doing in math right now. You've got a pattern here that starts at 12, showing 9 terms here. 3 types of questions that could be asked here. State the pattern rule. What are the next 3 terms in the pattern? And then the hardest one, what is the 30th term of this pattern? Most students are going to have no problem with the first one or the second one. First one, state the pattern rule. It's simply about recognizing the rule and knowing how to say it clearly. So stating the pattern rule in this example is pretty straightforward. We will start practicing some more complicated ones in the next few days. It's important for students to remember to always start their pattern rule with the word start. Where do we start at? So we start at 12, and then in this pattern we add 4 each time. Next question is what are the next 3 terms of this pattern? So this is just the ability to extend the pattern. Again, most students will be able to do this quite easily, quite confidently. And so if we're doing that, we're adding 4 each time. They are allowed a calculator for some of the more complicated ones, in this case, and they also have access to hundredth charts that can help them counting up by 4s and 5s and 6s and whatnot. And now we get to the last question, and this is the most difficult question that students are struggling with. What is the 30th term of this pattern? Obviously, the long way to solve this would be to extend the pattern 30 so that you have all 30 terms in there. That would take a long time. I'm trying to encourage students to think about how we can use multiplication to help us solve this problem. Okay? And the key when looking at multiplication is the pattern rule, that we're adding 4 each time, and how multiplying by 4 helps us solve this. So even if you look from going up from one term to the next term, you're going up by 4. 4 times 1 is 4. If you go from one term up 2 terms, that's 4 times 2 is 8. If you go up from term 1 to term 3, the difference between 24 and 12 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay? So there's a pattern when you look at multiplying by 4. So what I've showed students to do is you take the 30th term, because that's what we're trying to find, and you're going to multiply 30 by 4. You're going to take whatever term you're being asked for, you're going to multiply that number by the amount that it's going up by. As long as the pattern is going up by the same amount each time, we can multiply. So we multiply 30 times 4. And again, the 30 is because we're looking for the 30th term, and the 4 is because the pattern is going up by 4 each time. This answer of 120 tells us the difference from 0 to the 30th term. This is the tricky part. So the next thing we need to do is we need to add what the pattern would have started at if it started at term 0. Okay? Patterns don't start at term 0, they start at term 1. But we can create a term 0 by just going backwards. And term 0 is simply, if we subtract by 4, because that's what's happening here, obviously term 0 is going to be 8. So now we are going to add 8 to 120, and 120 plus 8 is 128, and that's how we solve finding the 30th term. If we were looking for the 40th term, we could do 40 times 4 plus 8. The 50th term, 50 times 4 plus 8, and so on and so on. If students are having trouble seeing this, sometimes we can try to find one we already know, something easier. So if you were trying to find the 10th term, I already know that the 10th term is 48. But if I use the same procedure, I'm going to get 10 times 4 is 40. Then I have to add 8 because I'm trying to find the 0 value, which is 8, and I get 48, which is what I expected to see all along. So if students can remember to just follow this procedure, Multiply whatever term you're looking for by the amount we're going up, and then add the 0 term here. So whatever the term 1 is, subtract whatever you're adding each time, and that'll give you term 0. Add that to it, and that's how you find your answer.